Today we're going to be taking a look at 3 photos taken by hikers that may look normal at first glance, but are deeply disturbing once you learn the full story behind them. From the rugged mountains of Hawaii to the frigid peaks of California, these stories should serve as a reminder to all of you to keep your wits about you when you're hiking. And make sure you watch all the way to the end of the video, because the last photo and story that I'm going to share has a interesting and fateful twist to it that I doubt many of you will see coming. To start, we're going to head to an area that I myself spent a lot of time hiking in back in March, the Hawaiian island of Oahu. This right here is seriously one of the most disturbing photos ever taken by a hiker, and I'm going to explain why that is and tell you the story. But first, I would please ask you to subscribe to the channel. My goal is to get this channel to 200,000 subscribers. We're getting very close. Thank you so much to everyone who's already subscribed, and if you haven't, and I know a lot of you haven't, by the way, because nearly 80% of my viewers right now are not subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do it and help me get to that goal. Okay, back to this disturbing photo and disturbing story. On February 27th, 2015, Dalen Pua decided to hike the Haiku Stairs on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Pua was only 18 years old at the time, a senior in high school, and was visiting Oahu from the Big Island where he lived. Now, the Haiku Stairs are a very famous place. Perhaps you could even say infamous. They consist of almost 4,000 steps that were built by the US Navy during World War II after the Japanese attack at Pearl Harbor, which occurred, by the way, less than 10 miles away from the location of the stairs. The stairs were constructed in 1942 to be exact, and their purpose was to provide access to an antenna system that sat high up on the ridge of the Haiku Valley's peaks. This antenna system served the top secret Haiku radio station, which was used to communicate with US Navy ships sailing in the Pacific as far away as Tokyo Bay. After the war, the radio station and its stairs were transferred over to the US Coast Guard, who ended up making some improvements to the structure and even opened it up to the public starting in the 1970s. However, by 1987, the radio station was officially closed and the stairs were now off limits to the public. The Haiku Stairs were now an illegal hike. But as we all know, just because something is illegal does not mean that people aren't gonna do it. Despite the stairs being closed to the public, hikers continued to climb them. Not only are they an incredibly unique feature, but they also provide access to a beautiful peak whose name I have no chance of pronouncing. I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna try, but this is the name of the peak. The beauty of the area has caused the Haiku Stairs to take on an alternate name, one that a lot of you are probably more familiar with, the Stairway to Heaven. I actually hiked this peak a few months ago, but not on the illegal Haiku Stairs, but rather the Moana Middle Ridge Trail, which goes up the mountain on the opposite side of the stairs and ends where the top of the stairs meet the peak. It's an awesome route, but it's not as famous as the stairs, and thus every single day hikers continue to tackle the peak via the illegal route. And back in 2015, Dalen Pua was one of these hikers. Pua was visiting his grandmother in the town of Waianae and had told her that he was interested in hiking up the Stairway to Heaven. However, his grandmother informed him that the hike was illegal and strongly discouraged him from doing it. It appears as though Pua disregarded his grandmother's warning, and on Friday, February 27th, he left her house and got on a bus. And after this, he was never seen alive again. When Dalen Pua failed to return home that evening, his grandmother reported him missing. Police were quick to jump on the case, and it wasn't long before they discovered that Pua had actually texted some pictures to his friends around 11 a.m. the day that he went missing. These pictures placed him on the Haiku Stairs. Numerous groups came together to search for him, including volunteers, firefighters, and even the group that built the stairs in the first place, the US Navy. For 4 days, they searched the area, but found no trace of Pua. The day before the search was suspended, 2 hikers reported that they had heard cries for help, whatever that means, in the area. Though I haven't been able to find any other details about this bizarre incident, so I'm assuming they never really found out what that was about. And unfortunately, on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015, the search for Pua was suspended. Desperate to find any clues about Pua's disappearance, his family began closely studying the photos that he had texted out. And much to their surprise, or perhaps their horror. In one of the photos, they discovered a suspicious man obscured in the background by some brush. So naturally, the question is, who is this man? And unfortunately, we still don't know an answer to that. Despite this photo being plastered all over the news and in numerous forums on Facebook and Reddit and just all over social media, the man in the photo has not been identified. And this isn't shocking because, as you can see, you can't really make out any specific details about the man from the zoomed in photo. Dalen Pua's fate remains unknown, even to this day. His body has never been found, and that's all despite the fact that, again, even though they're illegal, the Haiku Stairs are still a very popular hike. It's certainly possible that the man in the photo had nothing to do with Pua's disappearance, or even that Pua hadn't even noticed him when he snapped the photo, but it's also possible that the man was following Pua and he may be the only one that really knows the true story behind Pua's fate. Either way, the circumstances surrounding this photo are very disturbing, as are the circumstances surrounding this photo as well. In early December 2019, 52-year-old Sri Mokapati and 3 of his friends decided to hike Mount Baldy in the San Gabriel Mountains of Southern California. Mount Baldy is officially known as Mount San Antonio and is the highest peak in Los Angeles County, rising to 10,064 feet above sea level. There are numerous hiking trails on all sides of the mountain that lead to the summit, and one of the more popular ones is the Bear Canyon Trail, which starts right at the Mount Baldy village and climbs over 6 miles and nearly 6,000 feet in elevation gain to the top of the mountain. This is the trail that Mokapati and his friends decided to tackle on December 8th, 2019. Even though Mount Baldy is in Southern California, a place that's obviously known for being quite warm, its high elevation and mountainous terrain makes it a cold and snowy hike in the winter months. At some point on the climb up the mountain, Mokapati's friends decided it was no longer safe to proceed and wanted to turn around. My understanding is that they made this decision based on the wintry, cold conditions that they were facing on the climb. For unknown reasons, perhaps just a simple desire to reach the summit, Mokapati wanted to continue on, even by himself, and he told his friends that he would simply meet them after he had returned from the hike and after he had summited the mountain. Just after he parted ways with the rest of his group, his friend turned back around and decided to snap a quick photo of Mokapati. His friend didn't know it at the time, but this photo would end up being the last photo ever taken of Mokapati alive. It's really an eerie scene. It shows Mokapati's silhouette heading up the mountain all by himself, surrounded with thick fog and snow. The friend who took the photo was later quoted saying, "I keep reliving that moment in my mind." He, referring to Mokapati, muttered something. I didn't quite hear what he said, and then he just kept walking. This friend also stated that he really wished he had told Mokapati to turn around and head back down with the rest of the group, and that after he snapped this photo, Mokapati just seemed to disappear off into the distance. When he failed to return to his car later that day, Mokapati's friends became concerned and they contacted the authorities. Overnight temperatures were going to be hovering around freezing that night, and Mokapati was only prepared for a day hike. He was not carrying any warm overnight gear with him. A massive search was started with rescue volunteer teams from multiple counties in Southern California and multiple helicopters. They searched the wilderness through waist-deep snow at times, all the way up to 7,000 feet in elevation. They even ended up rescuing a few other hikers, I think just by coincidence, but no sign of Mokapati was ever found. Then, a week into the search, a worst case scenario occurred. And it's not the worst case scenario that you might be thinking. Tim Staples was a 9-year veteran of the West Valley Search and Rescue Team and was one of the hundreds of searchers looking for Mokapati. At some point during his search, Staples became separated from his search partners and was eventually located via helicopter in a, quote, area of ice and snow. When rescuers finally got to him, he was unresponsive and was soon declared dead. It's not exactly clear to me what happened, but his death was accidental. It just seems like he probably took a fall while searching in the harsh, icy terrain. It's super tragic that a rescuer ended up dying in the process of trying to save somebody else's life. And it wasn't long after this tragic incident that the sheriff's department decided to suspend the search for Mokopati. And then, approximately 5 months after his disappearance, 2 hikers stumbled upon the remains of Mokopati. The date was June 19th, 2020, and the discovery was made on the northwest side of Mount Baldy, near the top of Fish Fork, around 7,800 feet in elevation. The news of Mokopati's death makes this photo even more disturbing, since we now know that it shows a man marching off all by himself straight towards death. This next photo also shows a hiker heading straight towards death, but the story behind this one has a much different ending. On Monday, April 12, 2021, Renee Cooper decided to hike near Mount Waterman in California's San Gabriel Mountains. I'll note, this is roughly the same area that the previous story occurred in. He parked at the Buckhorn Campground and Trailhead and started hiking, although it's unclear to me still which trail exactly that he took. Everything appeared to have started out fine, but then later that evening, one of Compine's friends got a text that must have sent chills up his spine. Renee Cooper texted his friend this photo. It shows his dirty legs dangling over a cliff, and later on that day, Cooper texted that same friend stating that he was lost and his cell phone was nearly out of battery. His friend reported him missing around 6 p.m. that evening, and searchers quickly set out to try to find him, fearing the worst would happen if Cooper had to spend a night unprepared in the cold mountains all by himself. The first thing rescuers did was try to use the photo to pinpoint Cooper's location. Unfortunately, no one was able to recognize the terrain shown in the photo, and so they turned their attention to the metadata attached to the photo. They were hoping this photo contained a location code embedded in its back end. But when they analyzed the metadata, they struck out once again. Cooper had turned his location off on his cell phone, providing no additional clues to his whereabouts. But the searchers had one more trick up their sleeves. This time they turned to the public and plastered the photo all over social media, hoping that someone would recognize it. A Facebook post from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department read, quote, "Are you an avid hiker in the Mount Waterman area? Search and rescue teams need your help locating a missing hiker. His car was found near Buckhorn Campground / Trailhead. It is unknown which trail he took from there." The missing hiker sent this picture to his friend earlier in the hike. The hiker's legs in the picture look dirty, possibly from a burn area on the mountain. If you recognize the area pictured below, please call us. And sure enough, miraculously, within hours of this post going up, a call came in. A random man who saw the post was somehow able to just analyze the photo and come up with the exact coordinates from where it was taken. This man was quoted saying, "I've got a very weird hobby, which is I love taking a look at photos and figuring out where they've been taken." This man passed the coordinates on to investigators, who were then able to zero in on this specific area to search. By this point, one night had passed, and the chances of Cooper's survival were diminishing by the minute. But armed with the coordinates of Cooper's last photo, a helicopter was sent out, and it wasn't long before they spotted him. The helicopter flew low and close to the mountain in the area of Twin Peaks East and Triplet Rocks. Once they spotted Cooper, he was quickly airlifted out, and soon after he was actually able to meet the man who had identified his photo, likely saving his life. Cooper told the man, quote, "I crazy appreciate what you did. I really don't know if I could make it there another day. It was just so cold." After his rescue, Cooper actually came under scrutiny from the government because he had wandered into an area of the forest that was closed due to the previous bobcat fire. They announced that he would potentially face a fine of $10,000 and 6 months in jail due to his actions, but I wasn't able to find any updates other than that initial announcement, so I'm not sure if he was ever charged or if the charges were dropped. Unlike the first two stories, this one fortunately has a happy ending. But that doesn't make the photo any less disturbing, because if it wasn't for a tech-savvy hiker with a bizarre hobby, this photo would have almost certainly been Renee Cooper's last photo. I'm glad he survived, and my heart certainly goes out to Pua and Mokopati, and of course, all their friends and families. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this far into the video, I want to thank you so much, and I also want to ask you to consider supporting this channel on Patreon. Thank you so much to everyone who's already on there. I appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you've been enjoying some of the bonus content and interaction. If you're really into my videos and you find yourself watching pretty much all of them, I'm really speaking to you right now. Patreon.com/KyleHatesHiking. It's just a few bucks a month. You're essentially buying me a beer every month, and it goes a long, long way in supporting this content.